We have viewed it, and measured it within all, by the scale the richest tract of land, love, in the kingdom. There will be made 17 or 18 millions, or more, as't may be handled. The devil is an ass. Nobody dressed more like an engineer than Mr. Henry Brearley. The completeness of his appointments was the envy of the corps, and the gay fellow himself was the admiration of the camp servants, axemen, teamsters, and cooks. "I reckon you didn't get them boots no worse this side o' St. Louis?" queried the tall Missouri youth who acted as commissary's assistant. "No, New York." "Yas, I've hear no New York," continued the butternut lad, attentively studying each item of Harry's dress, and endeavoring to cover his design with interesting conversation. "And there's Massachusetts. It's not far off. I've hearn Massachusetts was of a place. Les, see, what state's Massachusetts in?" "Massachusetts," kindly replied Harry, "is in the state of Boston." "Abolish and want it? They must a cost right smart," referring to the boots. Harry shouldered his rod and went to the field, tramped over the prairie by day, and figured up results at night, with the utmost cheerfulness and industry, and plotted the line on the profile paper, without, however, the least idea of engineering practical or theoretical. Perhaps there was not a great deal of scientific knowledge in the entire corps, nor was very much needed. They were making what is called a preliminary survey, and the chief object of a preliminary survey was to get up an excitement about the road, to interest every town in that part of the state in it, under the belief that the road would run through it, and to get the aid of every planter upon the prospect that a station would be on his land. Mr. Jeff Thompson was the most popular engineer who could be found for this work. He did not bother himself much about details or practicabilities of location, but ran merrily along, sighting from the top of one divide to the top of another, and striking plumb every town site and big plantation within 20 or 30 miles of his route. In his own language, he just went booming. This course gave Harry an opportunity, as he said, to learn the practical details of engineering, and it gave Philip a chance to see the country, and to judge for himself what prospect of a fortune it offered. Both he and Harry got the refusal of more than one plantation as they went along, and wrote urgent letters to their eastern correspondents, upon the beauty of the land and the certainty that it would quadruple in value as soon as the road was finally located. It seemed strange to them that capitalists did not flock out there and secure this land. They had not been in the field over 2 weeks when Harry wrote to his friend Colonel Sellers that he'd better be on the move, for the line was certain to go to Stone's Landing. Anyone who looked at the line on the map, as it was laid down from day to day, would have been uncertain which way it was going, but Jeff had declared that in his judgment the only practicable route from the point they then stood on was to follow the divide to Stone's Landing, and it was generally understood that that town would be the next one hit. "We'll make it, boys," said the chief, "if we have to go in a balloon." P161.jpg, 42K. And make it they did. In less than a week, this indomitable engineer had carried his moving caravan over sloughs and branches, across bottoms and along divides, and pitched his tents in the very heart of the city of Stone's Landing. "Well, I'll be dashed," was heard the cheery voice of Mr. Thompson, as he stepped outside the tent door at sunrise next morning. "If this don't get me. I say, Jan Grayson, get out your sighting iron and see if you can find old Sellers Town. Blame me if we wouldn't have run plumb by it if twilight had held on a little longer. Oh! Sterling, Brearley, get up and see the city. There's a steamboat just coming round the bend." And Jeff roared with laughter. "The mayor'll be round here to breakfast." P162.jpg, 87K. The fellows turned out of the tents, rubbing their eyes, and stared about them. They were camped on the second bench of the narrow bottom of a crooked, sluggish stream, that was some 5 rods wide in the present good stage of water. Before them were a dozen log cabins, with stick and mud chimneys, irregularly disposed on either side of a not very well-defined road, which did not seem to know its own mind exactly, and, after straggling through the town, wandered off over the rolling prairie in an uncertain way, as if it had started for nowhere and was quite likely to reach its destination. Just as it left the town, however, it was cheered and assisted by a guideboard, upon which was the legend 10 Mills to Hawkeye. The road had never been made except by the travel over it, and at this season, the rainy June, it was a way of ruts cut in the black soil, and of fathomless mudholes. In the principal street of the city, it had received more attention, for hogs, great and small, rooted about in it and wallowed in it, turning the street into a liquid quagmire which could only be crossed on pieces of plank thrown here and there. About the chief cabin, which was the store and grocery of this mart of trade, the mud was more liquid than elsewhere, and the rude platform in front of it and the dry goods boxes mounted thereon were places of refuge for all the loafers of the place. Down by the stream was a dilapidated building which served for a hemp warehouse, and a shaky wharf extended out from it, into the water. In fact, a flatboat was there moored by it, its setting poles lying across the gunwales. Above the town the stream was crossed by a crazy wooden bridge, the supports of which leaned all ways in the soggy soil. The absence of a plank here and there in the flooring made the crossing of the bridge faster than a walk, and a fence not necessary to be prohibited by law. "This, gentlemen," said Jeff, "is Columbus River, alias Goose Run. If it was widened, and deepened, and straightened, and made long enough, it would be one of the finest rivers in the western country." As the sun rose and sent his level beams along the stream, the thin stratum of mist, or malaria, rose also and dispersed, but the light was not able to enliven the dull water nor give any hint of its apparently fathomless depth. Venerable mud turtles crawled up and roosted upon the old logs in the stream, their backs glistening in the sun, the first inhabitants of the metropolis to begin the active business of the day.